Hey, you ever buy something for the shop and you regret it? Stay tuned. Possibly, I might be able to give you a little bit of advice to avoid that. So over the years, I've gotten some sound advice from my dad and from some of my mentors. And I have learned whether I'm buying a square, a chisel, a hand plane, or all the tools in the shop, I always go by this, buy quality first. And I have heard a bunch of ways of saying this, but my favorite is buy once, cry once. Here's one for you. Eliminate the frustration. Buy a great combination square from a company you know you can trust. So way back when, I had to save up my money to buy a good square, and I did. I waited a few extra paychecks, and I bought a Seibert. This square is still square. And what's important about it, it is from the get-go square. I implore you to go grab out of a big box a combination square and test it right there. Okay, I can be willing to bet I've tested 4 or 5 at a big box store once and they weren't square. Eliminate your frustration. Okay, now I will show you how to check to see if your square is square. So let's check to see if your square is square, all right? So what I do is I always make sure it's clean edge here and there's no debris on my combination, okay? I take it like this and I make a mark, okay? Along this tongue. Then I flip it over and I bring it right on in and I make a mark here. Now, if this line diverges out this way, then it's not square. But as you see, for the last 30 years, this Seibert combination square has earned my trust. So you get what you pay for, and I've had this for 30 years. I'm so glad I listened to my mentor, Ralph. I didn't have the money back then, but guess what? I waited and I bought this. I believe this at the time was between 80 and 100 bucks. Then the next summer I went home, and the beauty of it is, my dad said, you got to stare it, right? And I went, yeah, Pops. And guess what? He said, I got a couple of pieces for you. I have a center finder that fits right on there. And guess what? It's accurate as well. And also this angle finder or inclometer, whatever you want to call it. But guess what? They slip right on. So here is the reason I'm talking about this. When something is made right, over all the years that Seibert has been in business, all their pieces and parts still work and are accurate. That is why you buy quality. Okay, so way back when, this company, Woodpeckers, didn't exist. So when I first started looking at their layout, measuring, and marking equipment, I was very intrigued. And then I saw the price point. Not so bad, but a little extra than what you see in a big box. So guess what? I bought a 1281 square, and I've had this for 18 years, and it is still square. I will highly recommend this to anybody getting started. The only thing I'm going to say, because I believe you will regret this. I remember when this came out, this is the Polini Pocket Rule, and just recently I went on Amazon, and there must be 50 different companies knocking this out. Once again, stick with who you trust for accuracy. You may pay a couple extra bucks, but in the long run, it is so worth it. Speaking of impulse buys, you got your first router, and now you need router bits, and you see that set, $50, and you get 10 bits in there at the big box store. Don't do it. So the price of that set is probably the same price of an individual router bit. I've always bought my bits individually, because in those sets, maybe out of the 10 bits, you're only going to use 2 or 3 consistently. And the other part of that is those bits are not manufactured with the same quality carbide, But it's not just the carbide. It's also the bearings and everything that makes up and the brazing of that router bit. So buy bits individually and buy from a quality company. Okay, so I used to watch a program, bet you did too, called New Yankee Workshop. And what type of clamps did Norm use? They were Bessie K-bodies. And way back when, they were the only K-bodies out there, because from here to here, when you crank them, they remain parallel. So, seeing the program, I went and looked to see how much they were, and I was like, whoa! But guess what happened? I bought my first one. That was 30-something years ago, and I have not regretted it, because I still have some of those. I've given some away, and I've upgraded to the Bessie Revos, because a quality company never stops innovating or making their tools a little bit better. And just a little caveat, if you go into the SedgeTool library, I'll also put a link for this in the description. I did a video on the Bessie K-body clamps and how to maintain them. You buy a good clamp, it will last a lifetime. Okay, there's a lot involved in this choice for your shop. You can go into, and I keep saying, the big box store and looking at a set of chisels. And I made this mistake. I went in, I bought some chisels, and I think I got 4 chisels. And the problem was, is when I would sharpen them, they would dull wicked quick. It's the quality of steel. So when you see a price point, it's pretty much dependent on the quality of steel used in the chisel. So this was my second set of chisels, and they had the name, and I read a lot about them. So that second time I purchased, I wanted to make sure I bought correctly. These were fairly expensive. But if you look at them, you see the blue handle, it says Marples here. This is Sheffield steel, and this was when Marples was Marples. Okay, or let me say that right, Marples. Okay, so the nice thing is I've had this for over 30 years, this set. And it's these Sheffield steel chisels hold an edge so well. So you could go into one of those big stores and see this blue handle, okay? I don't know if they're still putting the name Marples on there, but it's not the same company. They've been bought several times, so don't make that mistake. This is not available anymore, the Marples brand, okay, from way back when. So recently, I got these from Blue Spruce. They came out absolutely perfectly lapped and polished to a polish I can't get with my sharpening system. And the edge, the front edge, is perfect and polished and worth every daggone penny. Because guess what? They stay sharp for a long time. So I just keep stropping them or polishing them. So these Blue Spruce chisels, the balance is beautiful on them. They're resin infused handles. These will last my second lifetime, but I still use these to get down in for paring on these Marples, and these are my go-to chisels for every day, and they live right here in my trough. So, in the description below, we did a whole roundup of all the tape measures, and guess what? Those are all the tape measures that I have purchased pretty much on impulse over the years. I'm going to save you some money. This is a fairly inexpensive tape measure. In my eyes, it's the best one out there. So you're probably asking why, okay? Of course, it has a tape measure, okay? But look, right here, you can write stuff on here. It's got a pencil sharpener. I always take the clips off because I put them in my pouch. But the scale is why I truly like it on the tape. You have imperial and you have metric. This is the fast cap imperial metric tape. And on the metric scale, because I build 32 millimeter cabinetry, I have every 32 millimeters a little diamond here. So it helps me get my layout dead on. So here is something that's near and dear to my heart, is choosing the right bench plane. And when I say choosing the right bench plane, there's 4 options here. You can buy a $20 one. In the description, I'll have a video of taking a really inferior hand plane and make it a halfway decent user. That's one. Number 2 is you can buy at a flea market or online an very inexpensive restorer. Then you can go to the top of the line right here, okay? Or there's several brands up there that are very high end. And then you can go right in the middle. That is a very high quality hand plane at a good price point. Okay, so first, don't go buy that cheap one at the big box. It is not worth it because of the time you have invested in there. Same thing with a restorer. You can get a good old Stanley and restore it, but you got to think about your time. I like restoring hand planes to make them good users. But I also have all the equipment for flattening and sharpening and taking all the rust off. But that is a lot of time, and I like doing it. Like this number 5 Stanley I have, Bailey, okay? This works fantastic, but I'm going to tell you, I probably have about 10 hours in there. But I also purchased the tote and the knob in the front, cherry. This works as good as a Melbourne or a Lee Nielsen. Remember I said, take time, walk away. Do you really need it? Save your money. I'll say this every single time, because if you buy one of those low-end hand planes, I have seen so many people hate hand planes because that's what they bought, and they have never experienced a high-end hand plane. So this is why I bought a Lee Nielsen. So this Lee Nielsen I've had for over 30 years. It's never let me down. The blade stays sharp. It is an amazing experience. But there's a caveat to this. Recently, I started using this Melbourne Bevel Up Smoother, and I love this hand plane. It costs a little bit of money, but it's not as much as a Lee Nielsen. And does it work great? Yes. So finally, a hand plane company has come in to save beginners a little bit of money and have that quality experience with a hand plane. So this goes and cements this video. You buy something once, you have it for your lifetime. I had to save up for this, but guess what? It's never let me down, and it has made my woodworking experience awesome. Last but not least, buy into the SedgeTool system. I did back in 2003, and look what happened. Here's the situation. I had random orbit sanders, the 5-inch ones. I had tons of them. I had milk crates full of them. Then why would I buy a 5-inch random orbit sander? Again, don't make that mistake. Hear me out on this one. Okay, so I bought this sander, but I didn't buy the dust extractor. And I thought, oh, this is a good sander, okay? And I wasn't using dust extraction. You have to put it all together. Get the sander, get the dust extractor, because it's just not the sander, it's a system. So I was using this sander way back when, and I really liked it because it had low vibration. The dust extractor was getting all the dust, and I was prolonging the life of the paper. But there was a little bit of hesitation. So I said, well, wait a minute. And I walked over to the dust extractor and I did this. I turned this knob down because back then, SedgeTool was the only dust extractor that had variable suction. And lo and behold, when I turned it back on, still great dust extraction, but it didn't hesitate. There was no chatter. And the biggest thing about it is I had less swirl marks. So think about your time and what it's worth. And your health. Get a system of sanding that gets the dust. Because guess what? The time savings is also right here. I'm sanding the product quicker, but also There's no dust floating in the air that I had to wait for it to come down. All right, there you go. So hopefully this video made sense to you. I want to save you money, a few headaches, and your time, because your time is worth so much. From combination squares, to tape measures, to chisels, to hand planes, to sanding systems, to router bits. Hey, make sure you save your money and buy once, because you'll only cry once. So as we say from the SedgeTool shop, be positive, stay sharp, and we mean wicked sharp.